This is News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. And we're going to go straight to the phones with Jerry Reynolds, the Car Pro. How are you doing, Jerry?
I'm doing good, Matt. And
Paul Beane sitting in here with me. Yeah,
I'm doing good, Jerry. You know, I want to tell you, you've got a great fan down in San Marcos, Texas. My baby sister. I don't think that she goes to a gas station without getting online and trying to get a recommendation from you where to buy her gasoline. It's absolutely amazing.
Paul, I appreciate that.
Well,
much.
She and her husband both are great fans of yours, and they would never buy anything to drive that you didn't recommend.
Well, that's good to hear. And please, again, tell her thank you. I always appreciate the loyal ones.
Well, she's one of your biggest fans. I understand you're talking Cadillacs today, right?
Yeah, we are actually, Paul. I've got the brand new XT6.
You want to know the first thing I noticed about this one that you're driving today?
Yeah, sure.
It's got a Texas license plate.
I know, and that's a little bit rare.
Okay. Now, Jerry, let me tell you, I've kind of lost track of all the Cadillacs with all the X's and the R's and the T's and the 6's. And give us a little description on what you've been driving this week in particular.
Well, I tell you, Cadillac figured out that they had a real hole in their lineup. You've got the XT4, which is a small luxury SUV, and then you've got the XT5. That's the midsize, but it didn't have a third row seat. And from there, you went straight to the Escalade, which today is $100,000 and way too big for a lot of people. So they figured out they needed to put something in the middle. So they essentially took the XT5, stretched the frame, made the wheelbase longer, put a third row seat in. And I've seen a lot of car companies do this. And so before I got in this thing, I was like, okay, I know where this is going. This is like what Lexus did with the RX 350. They now have a third row seat version, but if the person's over 2 years old using the third row seat, you can't get back there. I mean, it's really tight. So I figured the same thing was going to happen here. Surprisingly, when I looked at this thing and looked at the back seat room and actually climbed back there myself, sat down, this thing is roomy. It's really going to work. And then I looked at the price. This one is a pre-production model, which means that it'll eventually be destroyed, unfortunately. But it didn't have a window sticker with it, but you could go online at the Cadillac website and build your own. So I duplicated it, and the MSRP came in on this one at $69,000, $69,500. And I was a little bit surprised because the last XT5 I had without the third row seat came in a little over 62. So they didn't gouge to get this little bit larger vehicle with the third row seat. It's got a beautiful interior, a lot of nice safety features. If there's anything that I didn't love about it, it feels underpowered to me, but I admittedly have a heavy foot. So for a lot of people,
you've just been driving too many supercars.
I was on a roll there for a while. But, it's nice. It rides good. It's super quiet inside. And they fixed a few of the things that I hated about the XT5. One was it did not have a volume knob to turn up the radio volume or down. And that bugged me on the last one. And the start-stop system, which I absolutely hate, you could not turn it off in the last XT5 I had, and this one has a turn-off switch. So they corrected a couple of things that I noted in my last XT5 review. Overall, I like it.
Well,
I wish it had a little more power.
Right. When do you expect them in the dealerships?
They should start to hit any time now. Now, what effect the GM strike has had on this car arriving, we don't know. I suspect that's going to delay them some. I think some were shipped out prior to the start of the strike. So if they haven't sold, you might find a handful around. But overall, I think we'll start to see them. Assuming the strike ends today, and it should, then I think we'll start to see a lot of them pretty quick.
So
now, is the Metroplex GM plant has it been shut down during the strike? I mean, are all the plants down?
Yeah, they're all down. I mean, it was they've been picketing at the Arlington plant for every day for over a month now, and that was one of their busiest plants. That was a plant that typically ran 7 days a week and 3 shifts.
Well, now wasn't that the old Pontiac plant? Or
years and years
ago. Okay,
and then they went to the pickups, and then they went to building all the large SUVs there.
So let me ask you this: this SUV, what is it built on? I mean, does it have the same chassis as another GM vehicle, like maybe the Blazer or something like that?
Yeah, and the Traverse and the Acadia. They all share platforms. They all share that 3.6 liter V6 like this one has. This one had an upgraded transmission. This is actually a 9-speed, which is first for GM in SUVs. They've been using 8 speeds for a long time. The 9-speed shifts well. It's got shift paddles on the steering wheel, and I got to say they're very responsive. Sometimes shift paddles in a car are just more for decoration than anything else. It doesn't really. They react slowly. This one reacts very quickly. So if you want to shift it yourself, you can help yourself. Getting that power. Just when you get used to this thing and you know when to shift it, that underpowered issue that I talk about, you can alleviate some of that by shifting yourself. Now, not everybody wants to do that.
But Jerry, my Chevrolet pickup is 8-speed, and on the highway, even on some of the smaller grades, it seems like it's always looking for a gear.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that with this 9-speed?
No, I haven't yet, but I haven't run into that situation, Paul, to be honest with you. I've only driven this thing in town so far. But that's common with these higher speed transmissions. They have that last gear is strictly for cruising. And it'll do you 2 things. One, it'll get you better gas mileage. But secondly, it cuts the wear and tear down on that engine dramatically. I mean, all the Fords now have 10 speeds.
Right. Well, even my 8-speed at 75 miles an hour is running just barely 2,000 RPMs.
Yeah,
so
that's right. And that would have been impossible just a few years ago.
Well, yeah, certainly. And you look at the oil pressure gauge and say, wait a minute, I'm not holding enough oil pressure here. But then you look at the tach and you say, well, the engine is barely past idle.
So I know that Ford, I think they use almost like a twin turbo type system on their engines where they can get a smaller engine but more power.
Yes.
Is GM doing anything like that? Is that something they could do maybe to get more power?
We're seeing more turbos out of GM, but their big thing is cylinder deactivation, where like in Paul's truck, when he's running out on the highway at 75 miles an hour, he's only running on 4 cylinders.
Right.
And so they took a little different approach, but I think they will come around to turbos more and more as we go along. GM has used some superchargers, and, the Corvette, the upper horsepower Corvettes have got superchargers. So I think they're going to be forced to get into turbos more than they are today.
Well, I'm just surprised at some of the big Ford vehicles, the power, horsepower that they're able to get because of the setup that they have with those turbos.
Oh, if you'd have told me 5 years ago that a 6-cylinder pickup would tow 12,000 pounds, I would have told you were crazy. There's no way. And now the horsepower is up with that 6-cylinder with twin turbos, the EcoBoost. It's up to over 400, and towing capacity is approaching 13,000.
Well, I can't even believe. So I've got an EcoBoost engine, and I can't even believe the ability to get around cars. I mean, I've got a giant Expedition and the long one, and you hit the gas, and you're around a car, and you feel like you're in this big old vehicle, but when you hit the gas, it's almost like it's light all of a sudden.
And that's the beauty part of it, is that you've got that power there when you need it. But when you drive it normally and you don't need that power, you're getting really good gas mileage. And I think that's one of the reasons the EcoBoost has been so popular.
So what do you got going on CarProUSA.com?
I want to call everybody's attention, if you have a teen driver or, you've got a grandchild that's a teen driver, you just know a teen driver, National Teen Driver Safety Week starts, I highlight this every single year. We've got an article on our news page at carprousa.com. The big thing about this article, there's a teen driver contract there. And it was sent to me by a judge in the Austin area. He's a faithful listener for years. And he used this in his courtroom when a kid got a ticket. And, man, it's you can tailor it to fit you, but essentially it says, okay, kid, here's the rules. If you do this, here's what happens. If you do this, here's the punishment. And I think families should sit down together and with a teen driver, especially a 16-year-old, and set the parameters and then stick with them. I think it can be a lifesaver.
All right. Jerry, you're on from 11 to 1 every Monday through, or I was going to say Monday through Friday, but you're actually only on Saturday.
Oh, wow, my workload just increased.
I just put a whole lot on you there. No, every Saturday from 11 to 1, you're right here on KFYO, and it's great talking with you. I'll try to tweet out that teen driver safety because I think it's important. And so if there's any of our listeners out there, give me about 10 minutes, but I'll get that tweeted out, and y'all can have that if you've got some teen drivers. All right,
Matt, thanks. And Paul, great talking to you.
See you, Jerry. Thanks.
All right, buddy.
All right, we'll be right back after these messages.